Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sybilla Bakzaza show. We're your host, Grant Cohn. That's Sybilla Bakzaza, who the show is named after. A reason I say that is
I love it.
I just had uh, the moderator of the channel, Josh Mangold, who does a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Josh, love you, by the way. You are amazing.
Yeah, Josh is great, and I just had him go through and basically organize a lot of my videos and
That was
playlists.
him.
That was him. So
Wow.
thank you, Josh. And so if you are new to the show, if you want to binge old shows, a lot of similar shows are under the playlist, including this one. And what I want to say is, if you find old shows from anyone where any of us were particularly right or particularly wrong, go ahead and email them to me, because I want to make a playlist of like my best and worst takes, or our best and worst takes. Might be fun. So anyway,
Hey, do it to me as well. I know I've made
absolutely
mistakes over the months, hopefully soon to be over the years.
All right, let's talk Niners. They have a 2-game winning streak. They've won 3 or 4. Niner fans are really happy, and they're not trying to talk about, like last week it was all about banana hands and who they're going to trade them for. And this week it's like, enough. Let's just ride out this playoff run. And I understand, because Niner fans haven't had many of them. So let's enjoy it. Let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo's performance against Jacksonville. What'd you think?
Yeah, so once again, I think it was a really great game plan. I think that's the number one thing. I'm liking the game plan around Jimmy. It may seem a little bit one-dimensional to keep him under a certain number of passes, but it's not, because they throw so many wrinkles in around him, and they're getting more pieces involved around him. You see Juszczyk and Kittle and Debo and Ayuk all helping him out more, and I think that really puts Jimmy Garoppolo in the driver's seat, and it's nice to see, because with the exception of a few touch passes, the Wilson and the Juszczyk routes in the end zone, those were terrible passes. I mean, wow. I would say it. That was probably the worst pass I've seen within the last several years. That was bad. But at the same time, then he has Trey Sermon running up the sideline, dumps that beautiful little soft touch lob. We haven't seen a lot of 49ers quarterbacks do that in a long time. So that was really nice to see. It was good to see. So that's the pros I saw with Jimmy. I think there were more pros than cons. But once again, I do want to pump the brakes a little bit. This was Jacksonville. This was not St. Louis. This was not Green Bay. Or excuse me, this was not Arizona. I'm sorry. I always get the Rams as St. Louis. I grew up that way.
Right.
But it wasn't the Cardinals. This wasn't. I mean, we handled the Rams. To me, that was a more impressive game. This one, they did exactly what they should do. I don't think it was a mediocre performance. I think Jimmy had a decent performance, a good performance, but it was literally what he was asked to do. So good props to Jimmy. Good ball control. Really like what I saw from him. Very simple.
Let me tell you what I saw. Tell me if you saw the same thing. I thought he was real shaky to start.
You thought what?
I thought he was really shaky to start the game. And we don't remember it because the Niners went on to just destroy the Jaguars, and who cares how he played to start the game. But
that's what Jacksonville's penalties did. A lot of people do not realize the importance of the first drive. I don't know if that game goes the way it did if Jacksonville had not gift wrapped it. If Jimmy gets off to a hot start, Jimmy can drive. But when he gets off to a shaky start, as you're about to explain, Jacksonville gave us the first quarter.
They sacked him on 3rd and 6 at midfield in the first drive, and then it was negated by a hold on Kittle. Like, they roughed him up. They had his jersey green. They had him in the grass, and I thought the way I perceive Jimmy is if you hit him early in the game, jittery Jimmy comes out, and if he can get in a rhythm and he realizes, oh, they don't have a pass rush today, he's very confident. Early in the game, he was getting hit, and I thought I saw jittery Jimmy. That's, to me, why he missed that throw to Jeff Wilson Jr. I mean, he was like,
those were jitters, absolutely.
Those were jitters. I mean, those were layups, and he missed them. And he didn't really settle in until they were up big, 10-3, until they were up. Like, the reason they got the lead was because Debo Samuel scored that touchdown as a running back. He missed the throw to Juszczyk, and then after that, he hit the throw to Kittle. Who was it? How they scored the second time? To Kittle. Forget.
Yeah, it was to Kittle. But that was on fourth down, as I recall.
Anyway, he started off jittery, and he didn't get until like the Jaguars had pretty much like beaten themselves. So it's something to keep in mind. If he gets hit early against the Vikings or Seattle, he kind of goes in. He's not the same player.
And that's why I wanted to say that, again, we have to pump the brakes because this was Jacksonville. And, props to – I like Myles Jack as a player. He's a really good player, and I want to give him a little bit of a shout-out there. But for the rest of the team, they're not a horrible defense, but their offense is really shaky. and that they were not
Horrible
able to
offense.
punish the 49ers in any phase of the game. And like you said, I mean, the penalties, I mean, they got an ejection, they got defensive holding calls, they jumped off sides. I mean, they kept the 49ers going on more than one drive. It was not just that drive. There were other drives as well where they still gift wrapped them the scores that they would have. And again, I mean, even with all that help, the 49ers still only kicked a field goal. And I don't mind it against Jacksonville because they might have expected a defensive battle and not much offense from Jacksonville. But at the same time, if we're going to play better teams, that's something we have to go for. But I will say that I think Kyle Shanahan bolstered Jimmy's jitters by handing the ball off and pounding the rock, as they say. So I think that he may have seen what you saw. And so I think that he dialed up a whole lot more wrinkles to the offense just to give Jimmy a chance to step back.
Right. Yeah. And Jimmy ended up playing a terrific game. But what I've seen from him the past few games is he plays his best when the Niners are winning. And when they're down, that's when, or when he's getting hit, that's when he doesn't play as well. But we'll see how he does.
That's something to keep our eye on in the Vikings game.
Yep.
Because I suspect they will bring pressure early and often.
All right, so Trey Lance, this is a topic I've been talking about. It just seemed regular to me. I mean, last night, for example, Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. The backup is Blaine Gabbert, not someone that they're developing for the future. But the Bucs are up, I want to say 27-10 with 6:49 left, and they pull Brady and bring in Gabbert to just hand off and go through the motions because the game was over. But the Niners didn't do that. They have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not Tom Brady, not even half of Tom Brady. And they have Trey Lance, who is supposedly the future, unlike Blaine Gabbert over there. And he didn't get in the game until like 3 minutes left. There were two other possessions before that in the fourth quarter when the Niners were up by 24 and 30. 27, I want to say. Didn't play. What did you make of that? No big deal?
You know, I was watching the game with my mother and father, actually, and we all said the same thing. We were kind of looking at the clock, and it's the fourth quarter, and we were like, so at a certain point, did you notice Jimmy seemed banged up a little bit in the fourth quarter early?
Yes.
And he went to the sideline, and he seemed like he bent over a little bit in pain. My father threw something out that I do understand. I think, can you imagine if Jimmy had come out after that snap? We would have started this conversation with, what do you think of the Jimmy injury? And right. I think that I have to give the coaching credit. I think they were protecting his image a little bit. They were doing damage control with the media, with the team. However,
you're probably right, but hold on. Why was he injured? Because he was in the game in the fourth quarter. He got sacked in the fourth quarter, up 24-27.
Right, and that's the thing. When the game is in hand, to be honest with you, I don't see why Bosa needs to be out there, or Kittle, or Debo. You know, they actually did start handing the ball off to Trey Sermon more, giving the first stringers a little bit more rest. Why not do the same with your quarterback? So yes, absolutely. Bruce Arians did a really good job pulling Brady out. And the thing is, when you're playing, I don't want to call them a lowly team, but a team who's not scoring a lot of points, i.e. the Giants, the Jaguars, these were similar kinds of games. Overcharged San Francisco versus humble Jacksonville, same thing with Tampa Bay. But the difference with Arians over Shanahan is that he manages the potential for aggressive hits, late hits, and just the wear and tear on Tom Brady's body. It might be a non-contact injury he takes to the knee. Jimmy also has knee issues. So yes, I agree. He should have come out probably towards the beginning of the fourth quarter.
That's what,
maybe even the whole quarter.
Some Niner fans don't like this topic. My dad is out on this topic. He doesn't want to talk about Trey Lance.
I know.
He's not relevant to this season. Don't talk about him. Okay, fine. The other way to talk about this topic is forget Lance. Jimmy's the quarterback, right? Jimmy's so important that Lance doesn't matter, right? Then you got to protect Jimmy. And the fact that you let Jimmy Garoppolo take that sack in the fourth quarter up 27 points is unacceptable, because you've seen that Jimmy Garoppolo, he could land on his shoulder. He could mess up his ankle on the way down. He's not the most graceful faller. He gets hurt when he gets sacked. You don't want him taking that hit up so much. Get him out of the game and bring in Sudfeld or whatever, but get him out.
I actually said the same thing. Was Sudfeld even active?
No. But I mean, it's like, forget Lance. Protect Jimmy Garoppolo if you like him that much.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even again, that's why I want to bring up Bosa and Kittle and Debo. When you have good players and you are up so much in a game, so late in a game, that's when you start really either heavily rotating or just take them out altogether. So many times growing up, I've seen people like Peyton Manning, Shannon Sharp.
Young.
My favorite players growing up with the cap on their
I
head.
was talking about that yesterday. As a kid, you knew it was over when you saw Steve Young talking to Jerry Rice on the sideline with the baseball caps on. It was over.
Exactly.
And it was every week. You would always get a little bit of Elvis Gerback every week. It was nice. Hey, it's
exactly.
Elvis Gerback time.
And that's that, again, you just never, and I mean, Steve Young's career was ended on things like late hits. You just never know when someone's going to tee off out of frustration or just accidentally. He should have come out. Absolutely. And the thing is, I think they put Trey Lance as an afterthought. I mean, when they put him in, there just did not seem to be much points.
I'm just saying real quick, in 1994, which was the first year I really remember in the world, of football, Elvis Gerback appeared in 11 games, threw 50 passes. In 95, he appeared in 16 games, started 5. In 96, he appeared in 15 games, started 4. So we're not remembering incorrectly. There was always a little bit of Gerback time. After at the end of a win, if they were getting, there was a little bit of Gerback time. You wanted your backup quarterback to be ready in case the starter got hurt because you don't know when the starter's going to get hurt. That's the thing. Like, Jimmy's playing great, and you're going to have him the rest of the season, and the plan is to sit Trey Lance. Well, the plan goes out the window whenever Jimmy Garoppolo gets his next boo-boo or whatever it is. Owie, ankle, shoulder, knee. It happens. So why wouldn't you want your guy to be ready? Isn't that the whole point? I don't know. I'm going on a rant. The Niners won the game, and it's a great thing.
You know, in other sports, they also do this. Even in baseball, if you're up heavy in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings, they will actually take their starting third basemen out and things like that. Like, right. I'm an A's fan. I've seen Chapman come out in the 7th inning because we're up like 6-1 or something.
Just so something weird won't happen, because weird things happen in sports all the time. Let's get back to positivity. The good things the Niners did on defense, in particular against Jacksonville.
Yeah, so the first thing that I noticed was Ebukam's tackle for a loss. Just for young football players out there, that was so textbook, because you don't have to lay the hit as much as when you are trying to go for tackles for losses. You just have to stop them, because it may not even be you who makes the tackle. It might be someone who comes and cleans it up. So Ebukam, point of contact, he made the stop, realized, hey, it's still on me, wrapped him up. That was really good to see. So a lot of people were staying in their lane. In this game, again, it's Jacksonville, but they have a very mobile quarterback. And actually, there were a couple of negative things they did, I will talk about later, where they allowed Lawrence some lanes that will have to be cleaned up before they face Kyler Murray again. Really, again, Norman is such an interesting player on this team. He attacks the ball. His coverage, he still had some fundamental issues there. But, he knocked the ball out. I really like to see that. But let's go to Jimmy Ward, because I'm always on Jimmy Ward for not being physical enough. He used to be my favorite player because he was just so selflessly physical. He was a punisher. I think he deserved the name Eraser. He really set the tone in the backfield. And with Tartt being injured all the time, that only became even more important. So Ward came out firing in the first and second quarters. He didn't get a lot of play time in the first quarter because Jacksonville got the ball back with like 2.5 minutes. So a lot of his shining moments came right at the end of the first and the second. And he got involved. The number one thing I love to see a safety do is get involved with tackles, not make his own, get involved with tackles. In other words, if you want to break a Fred Warner tackle, you might want to think about that next time, because I'm here. And that's where Jimmy Ward, he can stop the yards after catches by adding the secondary hits legally, as he did, to the tackles. That was so good to see. Love to see that.
He was violent in this game, and the last few weeks
you were talking third and fourth quarters, because I think he knew, okay, we're going to win this one. I'm just going to stay in my lane. But in the first and second quarters, he was physical, very, very manly-like hits.
Well, you've been calling him out on the show the last couple of weeks, saying that's not hitting, that's catching, and those are business decisions. And I'm very disappointed in you, Jimmy. Everyone likes you, and I like you too, but you need to hit better. You've been saying that, and boom, he already said he watches the show. He says, be an asshole, keep it real, tell me what's going on. I'm a Jimmy Ward fan now, because he came on my show one time, so I can't keep it real anymore. But you did, and I think he listened and was like, all right, let me show you what I got. And I didn't mean to hurt that one guy, but he really hurt that one guy. Who is it? Agnew?
And I don't care. That's what I want to see.
Agnew should have been running by a Ward. That was his mistake. Yeah. Sorry, dude. Should have been running by me.
Jimmy did. Remember what I was saying? He was leaning back, as you say, catching the tacklers. He was Superman parallel to the ground, like diving into his hits. I mean, if anything, he overcompensated for his previous what I will flat out say are miscues. But this was vintage Jimmy Ward. He has the best hands for tackling on the team besides Fred Warner, I think. But this was back to the punishment that he used to be capable of, and that was, again, good job, Jimmy Ward. Let's see more.
I got another thing that I thought was interesting. I felt like the Jaguars were giving Mosley a lot of respect. They went after him a couple of times, but not much. And then as soon as the Niners took Mosley out of the game and Norman, the Jaguars went after Ambry Thomas like every single play. And so I thought, like, wow, they must have got the scouting report. But what did you see from Ambry Thomas in that trial by fire?
Let me back up the question a little bit back to Mosley real quick. I don't think it was respect for Mosley. I think it was disrespect for who else was on the field. I think the scouting report is, hey, I don't know how great Mosley might be, but we know he's their best out there. Stay away from him. You're a young quarterback.
Go at K1. Go at Norman. Yeah.
Yeah, K1 again. Interesting game. Not the best, but anyway.
Right.
On to Ambry Thomas. It didn't look good, of course. They definitely targeted him. He definitely gave up some catches. But there was one particular play in the red zone where he was on back-to-back plays. He was one step out of position, where he used his athleticism to try to get back into position. And you could see his mind was just a little bit mistiming the plays. And that, to me, was actually encouraging. I know the result does not look good, but how he got there is actually, I think that's important. He does not get a lot of game time. As I said, more than Lenoir, he would need game speed to iron out his wrinkles. He has a long way to go. That's the kind of quarter he should be playing, absolutely. In the same way that Lance should go in, so should he. Especially because we have one good corner. As far as health goes, Mosley needs to come out as soon as we can get him out of the game. So, again, Ambry Thomas does not get a lot of reps at the NFL level. Again, this was just Jacksonville, but I would like to see more of him. I would, in garbage time.
Yeah.
But I would definitely like to see more of Lenoir over K1 Williams as well.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of wondering
what Williams have to do to lose that job. He's not going to be here next year. He's getting torched weekly.
I understand they kind of play different positions as courtesy of their different frames, but both of us talked about them playing the same position in the slot before the draft. And I thought Ambry Thomas might have a good chance of doing that because vertical, we saw it in this game. Vertical is his enemy. Despite being a pretty athletic dude, he does not read the routes. His hips do not open up correctly as soon as the receivers break. I think he's almost paranoid about what's underneath. Do you see the same thing from Ambry Thomas? Mm-hmm. He's very paranoid about what's underneath. And I think he knows, okay, my strengths are beasting you at the line of scrimmage. And I think he's doing too much to make sure that happens.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, what about Tart? Tart came back. What was his impact on the defense?
I thought Tart had some pretty good plays. Obviously, he had the one call against him. Yeah. To me, it wasn't electric. I think it was pretty sound. I mean, I think the score speaks for itself.
Right.
The only touchdown they got was kind of because of him. But at the same time, I mean, he's trying to play aggressive. It wasn't the smartest play, but I don't think he was bad at all. Right? I think for the most part he was okay. I saw him flying around trying to clean up some tackles, but for the most part, I think Ward was the presence in the secondary. So in this game, I wanted to see more Hufanga, but according to Shanahan, Tart won the job back.
Look, I'm still not sold on this defense, Sybilla. They played well in this game.
Should be.
They played well against the Rams, but I can't get that performance against the Cardinals out of my mind. All they did was go up against a good team with a backup quarterback who executed the game plan. Also a backup running back, no DeAndre Hopkins, and they were overwhelmed.
No Green either.
Right, and people say it's like, oh, it's a one-off. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that the last 2 weeks, the Niners played teams that beat themselves in the first quarter. What happens when they go against a team that doesn't beat itself and just kind of executes and stays in the game and is a good team like the Cardinals did that one time? What if the Vikings can do that this week? What if the Bengals can do that in a few weeks?
The 49ers defense is to score. I mean, this is going to sound mundane because obviously you always want to score, but if you can score early against them and switch to a run game and pound them and wear them down, That's the recipe for defeating the
There it is.
49ers defense.
That's right.
That's the point I think you're trying to make.
That's right.
And again, that's why I said we have early on, we have to pump the brakes. This was Jacksonville. We should even pump the brakes on the Rams game because we own the Rams. Now, it's still a great performance. Don't want to take it away from them. But that's, what is that, the 5th time in a row they beat them?
Right. And Jackson, I mean, the Rams just came here and gave the game away immediately. Like that throw down the field of Ward. You just forced the ball up to Odell Beckham, who
maybe Stafford owed him or something.
I don't know. That was weird. And then the other one, Higbee just gave the ball to Ward. And if they had Robert Woods in both cases, probably those guys wouldn't be getting targeted. Anyway, that was a little bit of a weird game. I just want to see how the Niners defense responds when they go up against a team that doesn't just, blow it immediately. like with this Jacksonville offense, real quick, they had a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, but they just do nothing they don't let him move. They don't let him throw the ball down the field. They make him just throw little screen passes to wide receivers all day.
Yeah, that was an anemic and vanilla game plan. Absolutely.
Awful. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was just getting upset. I wanted to say that about Trevor Lawrence. He's a good player, and they made him look like a chump. Not the Niners. The Jaguars made him look like a chump.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the back to the Rams game, that's how you want to beat the Niners. Is if you can punish early and switch to a ground pound game. That's where you will wear them down. So that game is a good blueprint against the 49ers as well. Obviously, those interceptions, you can never count on them, but that's the NFL. You get weird things happen. It's how you capitalize on them. And that's why you can't take it away from the 49ers. They did what they had to do with what they were given, and good teams do that.
The last thing I want to say about their defense, since we're talking about it, and it is playing well, they gave up 200 yards in this game, 200 freaking yards. I still come back to K1, Norman, and Mosley. I like Mosley, but K1 and Norman, when you go up against teams that have multiple good receivers like this week, what's going to happen? Because last week they didn't have any receivers who were good. The Rams had one. The Bears had none. So this week you got a team that has two really elite wide receivers. Do the Niners' deficiencies at cornerback get exposed? We'll see.
The number one thing that Vikings should do is try to get Thielen matched up with Norman as much as possible. So Norman did something really horrible in this game, the Jacksonville game. So they were playing a zone coverage where the interior corner, I think it could have been K1, as I recall, basically because the receiver goes to the outside or like a China route or something like that, then it becomes Norman's responsibility. Norman posts 5 yards deep behind the receiver, who posts on the first down marker, and he doesn't attack until the ball is on its way. So as soon as the receivers are turning their backs, Norman doesn't break on the ball. That is the most obvious time to break on the ball possible. If you have a receiver running at the interior corner and he goes to the sideline, where else is he going to go? And if you're 5 yards beyond him and he posts, you have to attack the points of the ball.
What you're telling me is he missed his assignment. He didn't do his job.
His assignment. But I was watching his vision. He was watching the quarterback, saw K1 break back inside, and just...
He was freelancing. He was freelancing is what he was doing. He missed his assignment. And what's crazy is Diamador Lenore got benched for life for missing one assignment against the Packers week 3. Norman does it all the time, and he stays in the game because Kyle likes him. Now, he forces fumbles too, but he's a freelancer. He does this stuff every game.
Into Marcel Harris then, or something. Tell him to go get some more weight and just use him in packages and things like that. If Adam Thielen gets the chance to show off how good a route runner he is against Norman, they will get on 3rd and 8. We will never get them off the field.
Right, and then don't forget about Thielen in the slot too. Jefferson in the slot too. Official BNA Music 88 says Ward liked my comment on his IG pic when I said that he was smoking that Stafford pack. Max Stafford, smoking Pack Stafford. I like that. Start Sermon over fumble Wilson Jr. Yeah, when it's funny, people kept asking Kyle Shanahan, like, why didn't Trey Sermon play earlier this year? It's like, well, Elijah Mitchell's our starter, and Jeff Wilson Jr. has been here a while. Like, wait. He's been here a while? Wait a second. He's coming back from a serious injury. Trey Sermon is someone you traded up for. I don't see Jeff Wilson Jr. being better than Sermon today. Maybe last year he was.
Let's give Wilson a little bit of time, but I have to agree. Before this was even an issue, it should have been Sermon. as the number 2 back. I want to say, again, Hasty out there over Sermon, I've always been surprised at. And I think Sermon flashed the ability that if you give him a few carries, he's going to bust some 8+ yard runs. He did it. And if you put him in the flat, that was a great catch. It was a good throw, and it was a great catch.
That's what I want to say. He's the best receiver out of the backfield in the Niners. Sermon.
If that is the case, and I believe you on that, if that's the case, then Kyle Shanahan should want him out there more often.
Of course he should want him out there more often. Miwok's Sniper.
Sniper's cool. I've seen him before.
Says, hello, Grand Sybilla. Do you think this team has turned the page from the 2019 mindset and finally recognizes this is 2021 and they have to earn it? I think that they have that's a good call. I think their mindset has been right the last 2 weeks. Well, I'll give them that. Mindset is right. I'm not sure if they're good enough. I think they're probably going to make the playoffs, but then they're going to have to either beat Tampa on the road or Dallas on the road or Green Bay on the road or Arizona on the road, and that's tough. But I think their mindset's right so far.
Yeah, I think the mindset is right. I know 49ers players, especially like Fred Warner, he's always said that, hey, we know this is this year. We're not trying to ride the coattails or the laurels that we had before. But I think that it's hard to turn the page from a Super Bowl ascension.
It is.
And I think, honestly, I would give this to Fred Warner. I think he's capable of turning the page immediately. He is a different kind of mind for a football player. As for the team, the coaches, that's the number one thing. Can the coaches realize we're going to have to change things up? We're going to have to be accountable. We're going to have to make new game plans. We can't just go out there. I'm Kyle Shanahan. You will lose. I think that mentality has worn off, but that's what 4 games of losing will do. And again, as they all say, winning is the best cure for dissension in the NFL. So we're all here with a 5-5 record, talking about playoffs all of a sudden and things like that, and that's fine. They have to keep it going.
Right.
This 2 games, that's not enough.
No. And the thing is, like, everyone expects the Niners. I mean, I think Niner fans expect them to win the next 2 games. Minnesota at home, they destroyed Minnesota in the playoffs 2 years ago. And then Seattle, they're broken. The Niners certainly could win the next 2 games, but they could lose the next 2 games. This is going to be very interesting. It's not Jacksonville.
I don't know who's worse, Seattle with Wilson or the Cardinals with McCoy. So they couldn't handle McCoy.
Right.
Seattle could not handle McCoy either. That was interesting.
Also, the Vikings just beat the Packers.
Niners
didn't beat the Packers.
Yeah.
Niners didn't beat the Packers. So, but what's the best team the Niners have beaten?
The Niners were at home, and they're not good at home. So maybe we have an advantage by being on the road. We'll see. But I don't.
The Niners have beaten one good team this year, right? One good team. The Niners. They've beaten one good team this year. Am I wrong?
I mean, the Rams. Yeah.
The Rams. And the Niners beat the Rams even when the Niners are bad. So I'd like to see a little more from the Niners.
Yeah, so the victories that I don't want to say you want to write them off, but you should write them off. They have 4. The 4 that they should just completely. It's the Lions, the Jaguars, the Eagles, the Bears.
It'd be a big problem if the Niners lost any of those games. A big problem.
Yes.
The Niners lost to the 3-7 Seahawks.
You know, I think a lot of people are confident in this game because it's Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And I think he's like Biff Loman, basically. Like, people just have no respect for him. No. They think he's just a failure.
Goober.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan either, but he has a lot of weapons around him.
He'll throw
I do
deep
have respect
too.
for the coaching staff.
He'll throw deep. Like, I still think Jimmy has a mental scar tissue from the Super Bowl. Kirk will throw deep. Kirk will take awful sacks and make terrible plays with the game on the line, but he'll throw deep. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's what concerns me, is what will our secondary do when it comes to being the most charged secondary in football. And that was the thing that really sucked about that Tart defensive interference call, is that we were about to have a clean game, except for that.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's talk about this Vikings game. The Niners play the 5-5 Vikings this weekend, and really it's possible that the wild card teams this year will be the Rams, the Niners, and the Vikings. It's possible the Niners are playing a team that's right. I mean, I think they're right in the same tier of team. So how do you see this matchup stacking up, and what's the key for the Niners to win? Who's going to win?
The Niners will have to be very physical on defense. They would have to control the line of scrimmage. They cannot allow them to get Dalvin Cook going. He is a really, really good running back. Some people think he's the best. I'm not so sure about that, but he's damn good. So
Yeah.
they will have to realize this is coming up the gut. And just when you think that you're getting pounded in the stomach, there's Thielen, and there are other receiving weapons as well. This is a game where actually their offense is really well matched up to beat the 49ers defense.
Yeah.
The one weak part is Kirk Cousins, his lack of mobility, and that's
Right.
where we need Bosa to have a 2-sack performance at least.
But if the Vikings get an early lead, then they can run the ball and keep the Niners. There won't be any obvious passing situations, and
Yes.
Bosa won't have the same impact on the game. Really, it's going to matter who gets the early lead.
Exactly, and I think that a lot of Bosa's confidence in Jacksonville is also boosted by the fact that he's going against Trevor Lawrence, against a not so great offensive line, against an anemic run game. Like you say, there were a lot of things that allowed Bosa to be Bosa, and he had a really good game. But there were a couple of things that I saw from Bosa where he overruns the run lanes. Still, he's still doing that. I think at this point he leads the NFL in the combination of sacks and tackles for a loss. 10 and 15, I think.
Nice.
So one thing I will say about him, I think at this point, what we have is what we have in Bosa. I don't think we want to change his game. This is a guy who makes big plays. He may not always be the best run defender, but those are some great statistics. How can you argue with 15 tackles for a loss at this point in the season?
What I want to say real quick, though, is the way they're going to attack him is with screens. It's the same thing. I think they will. They should. It's the same thing that Arizona did, right? It's what they did with Connor. Those screens to Bosa's side. They did like 3 or 4 of them. And Bosa seems oblivious every time. Like, oh, right. Yeah.
One of the things, he's so almost the way you want to play him in martial arts terms is judo.
Exactly.
So he gears up and he puts everything he has like a freight train right at you. But if you use his momentum and you design things that circumvent that momentum, he will overrun it every time. And even when he pushes the pocket, he ends up 3 yards behind the quarterback before the quarterback steps up in the pocket. I mean, it's amazing the force Bosa comes at you with. And if he beats you to the inside, if he puts on a swim move or something like that, and you don't get enough contact, then he will run you over. But if you can just redirect him a little bit, that's the only way to handle Bosa. And teams have been doing that. He makes a lot of big plays. He makes a lot of bad plays. I think it's just the way Bosa plays. And unfortunately, it makes him, as you say, a liability laterally.
Well, I'm just saying the Vikings are a big screen team. So it's coming. And you thought James Conner was effective. Dalvin Cook's better. So be ready.
Fred Warner could have a seriously big game.
Sure.
If he plays, this is where he's going to be really important. Aziz Al-Shair has to be very careful in this game because one thing he does is he bites off assignments. He gets caught out of place a lot. Did you watch in the Jacksonville game when Trevor Lawrence, I think it was 3rd down and it's like 4 or something like that, and Fred Warner was setting the edge against any screens or running backs or anything funny going to the right side. And Aziz Al-Shair came right over and stood right next to Fred Warner, opening up the entire center of the field, and Lawrence ran right up the middle.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of like eye candy the 49ers can't bite on in this game.
Yes.
So Al-Shair has to be very careful and responsible. Again, I don't think you can change Bosa's game. I think if you tell him to watch out, essentially, then you lose that forward drive that gives you these sacks and tackles for losses.
Look, I just can't get this Cardinals game out of my head. I know the Niners just dismantled the Rams, but the Rams put themselves in a hole with that early interception that was like a punt that didn't have to happen. They really put themselves in a hole. Like, what if the Vikings just calmly get into the game with, screens and short passes and runs the way the Cardinals did and sort of just don't lose it early and let the 49ers get into the game and see if they're going to lose it early. Like, just don't commit the turnover right away. Don't commit a bunch of penalties on defense and see how the Niners react. The Niners haven't been in a game like that in weeks. And the last time they were in a game like that, they lost. So I'm curious to see if this game could go a lot of different ways. If the Niners get an early lead, they'll probably win. But if the Vikings get an early lead, they'll probably win. I'm curious to see how the first quarter plays out. Seems like the Niners games have been coming down to that early.
I think that if the Vikings get the ball first and they spend 7-8 minutes in the first quarter getting a field goal, that's a win for them. Because that's
same with the Niners, right?
By the way, this was a freakish, but again, it was helped by the lack of discipline of the other team. That's 2 wins in a row where lack of discipline in the first quarter has allowed the 49ers to chew up the clock. That's not
the
going to
Jags
happen
just
every
beat them.
time.
They had them stopped at midfield for a punt on the first drive and just automatic first down. Then they did it again at the 17. That team was awful. And then before the game was over, it was like 3-0 because the Niners didn't even convert after all of that. They gave up and were like, you know what, we're just going to take the field goal. Then what do? They go 3 and out, throw deep on third down, and then like on the second play of the next drive, one of their captains gets ejected. Like, just go home. The whole team, go home. Seriously.
And I have to say, I was disappointed to see the amount of injuries that Jacksonville took. So this was a beat-up team with starters throwing punch slaps. It was a bitch slap, excuse me. That was a very unmanly thing he did to Joanne Jennings. Number 2, he doesn't even deserve
You're
to be
the only
remembered.
person on this channel who can say that. Hey, Sybilla said it. It wasn't me.
I said it.
It wasn't me. Joshua says Sermon was a busted pick from the start. Never fit the offense. Should have been Paulson Adebo. Lynch even accidentally said his name after the draft. Interesting. Always better to draft a corner than a running back.
Yeah, I did not know that Lynch said that. I don't think he's a busted pick.
After him, huh?
Used in a busted manner.
See what they say about Paulson Adebo. Went to Stanford. Hold on. I want to know. Let's see what he's got. Okay, so he's with New Orleans. Oh, yeah, they draft well. And he has started 10 games this year. And he's giving up a quarterback rating of 93. Yeah, the Niners could use him. Checks out. Hold the phone. He was pick 76. Let me see what pick Sermon was. Wait for it. Sermon was 88, though. Doesn't work. Sorry. Almost worked. At least we checked it out.
That checks. Ouch.
Couldn't have had him. Already gone. Anyway. Anything else you want to talk about?
I just want to give Hofanga a quick shout out as well. Someone did not tell Trevor Lawrence who that number belonged to, but I think he knows now. That was insane that Trevor Lawrence tried to level Hufanga and did not work out well. And that, by the way, is something his coaching staff should say, hey, if you see these numbers on the field, slide.
Yeah.
That was good to see. Absolutely was. So with this upcoming Vikings game, we talked about what the defense has to do. As far as what the offense has to do, they have to control the ball. Nothing new there. I think Kyle Shanahan, he said recently, I'm happy if we get something over 30 carries a game or something like that. And that's kind of his goal, his benchmark. It's around 30, correct?
Yeah.
That has to happen in this game. 35 would be my goal. And just like you said, it's funny you said this last week. You were like, I think Deebo Samuel is the best running back on the team.
Yeah.
Well, after this game and after the last game, there's nothing that has happened to disprove that. He's Mostert-like. And by the way, a lot of people are like, oh, he's really good at breaking tackles. No. He doesn't break tackles. They miss him because of the sheer angles that he takes. If you watch him, it's very fluid and slow looking. It's not jump cuts and jukes and breaking tackles. Yeah, he can break tackles and stiff arm, and he's a beast. But I'm really happy the way he runs because it's sustainable.
He's just faster than you'd think. So one thing I want to say real quick with the Niners on offense is they're going against a defense that's giving up 4.8 yards per carry. Okay, so the Vikings run defense is 31st in the league, and I think the last couple of times the Niners faced the Cardinals were ranked real low in run defense, and you're like, well, not you, but I was like, well, the Niners should win, or they should at least be able to run the ball and control and play their way. But all the Cardinals did was put 6 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage, and the Niners abandoned their run game. I'm curious, will the Niners stick with their run game against a bad run defense, or is there some specialty front that Mike Zimmer can show that's going to take the Niners out of their identity?
A 6-person run defense against Deebo Samuel does not work, and this is why. With his angles and his ability to get through the hole and burst, you're going to put 6 defenders right on the line. What about the guys that have to deal with him after? The run game that was featured against the Cardinals was not as innovative as the one featured against the Rams and the Jaguars. So Deebo really, if they're stacking the box, if they're loading the line of scrimmage,
you're
Deebo
asking for him to break through and go the distance.
You know what I love about the Jaguars game was Deebo had 1 reception.
Yeah.
But he still had a monstrous game. You don't need him to catch the ball. You just need him to have the ball. Also, Brandon Ayuk ran a beautiful route into the end zone for his touchdown.
He did.
He split the defenders. They saw it coming 1 second too late. Not even 1 second. But he split the defenders, turned around, and the ball was right on time. Want to see more
Is
of
Debo
that.
going to play running back in this game? Is he going to be the running back?
Invite
Is he the running back for this team?
But he will be the gadget player. He will be running a lot. I want to say I cannot foresee them giving him less than 7 touches in the backfield against the Vikings.
Yep. I think that's the way it's going from now on. He's going to get more. He's going to be a running back the rest of the season. Like, he's going to get catches, but he's going to have more carries than catches every week from here on out is my feeling.
The dude has amazing balance as well.
Yeah.
And that's one
he's
reason
their best
why
running
he
back.
doesn't have to break tackles. He can. One of the things that he does so well, he keeps his body and his muscles engaged, his power forward throughout the run, like a martial artist. He doesn't need to break tackles because he's in full power 100% of the time. When you jump and you cut and you juke, you're coming to a dead stop. Debo doesn't do that. He floats. He has a little bit of I want to say vintage Le'Veon Bell. You know the way that Le'Veon Bell used to float behind the line of scrimmage and then hit the hole? Well, Debo Samuel begins to float but go faster.
Yes.
So he's kind of running and floating at the same time, and it's really amazing to watch. There is no defending against that. You have to make your tackles, and you have to go low. That's the only thing to do. You have to wrap him up by his ankles.
Yeah.
And Ayuk, by the way, Ayuk is playing out of his mind when it comes to breaking tackles. He's bouncing off people left and right. He knocked the Jaguar out of the game.
He's good. I don't understand why he was in the doghouse, but that's a really nice combination. I think we're going to see a lot of Debo running back down the stretch because
Ethan, love the logo.
There's no answer for it.
I love the logo.
KS needs to make sure he rotates personnel. Either way.
So the Greeks call it oplon, by the way, that helmet.
You see Niners versus Seahawks got taken off Sunday Night Football for next week. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be there. I don't like covering night games. I'm tired. I want to go to bed early. Anyway.
Dishonor. Shame.
Sorry. I like day games better anyway. I'm a day game kind of guy. Old school. Simple,
but
great
as
show.
far as the Niners go, to be, it's kind of like, go home. You're not cool enough to sit with us.
Yeah, pretty much, right? It's disrespectful. More to the Seahawks than the Niners, though.
But you know what? You have to earn what you get in life.
Well, that's our show, everyone. Thank you for watching. Sybilla, thank you for being here.
Of course. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And thanks to everyone who watched.
I'll be back in a couple hours with Jack going over some film, if you're into that kind of thing. See you then.